So, the college football playoff did well in the meeting in Chicago and is now going in front of the Board of Managers, the CFP Management Committee, as it's also called. The Management Committee is made up of 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame Athletic Director Jack Swarbrick. I love how they have to exclude us from saying FBS, but it's fun just hearing the name. They agreed to present the concept to the 11 university presidents and chancellors who have the ultimate authority over the format at the meeting Tuesday in Dallas. At a meeting Tuesday in Dallas. That's going to be interesting that it's gotten through. It's not surprising necessarily because I kind of figured it would. I think it's time for them to move on from the 4-team. I think everyone's kind of gotten bored with the 4-team and they're tired of Bama just walking all over everybody, and they're also tired of seeing teams that are like, hey, because there's teams that have made like Cinderella runs, and people want to see more of that. It would be a lot more interesting. You can get more revenue from the games, and after the first round, they're gonna make the round of 8 bowl games too, and then your round of 4 and 2 are obviously bowl games. So, I wonder what to call them, though. That's the interesting part to me, for some reason, is what are they going to call them? Just the rounds in general. Just, the round of 8, round of 4, round of 2? That's boring. Semifinal, final, quarterfinal. Boring. We need good names for it, like the March Madness tournament. I'd love to see that. When they present to the Board of Managers, it's to authorize the solicitation of feedback and begin feasibility assessments of any new formats. Yeah, no kidding. It's an information process, which was said by Bob Bowlesy, the Big 12 commissioner. He is one of 4 members of the working group that wrote the proposal, which includes the Notre Dame AD Jack Swarbrick, who I guarantee was the one that came up with, hey, let's not give Notre Dame a bye, even if they're the 1 seed in the future. Because, I mean, what if, keyword, this is a what if. This isn't going to happen. This probably won't happen. I'll probably jinx it and it'll go the opposite way. But what if Saban leaves Bama, he doesn't renew, or he doesn't extend, he decides to be done with his career, or something happens medically, and he says, I'm going to walk away, kind of like Danny Ainge, because he had a heart attack 2 years ago, and that's been on his mind ever since, before he was done, and he walked away. So let's say, I hope it doesn't ever happen, but something happens, and he says, I want to walk away after this contract, or he just wants to be done with coaching, which I don't think he'll really say. I especially don't think he'll say, but what if he does? That opens up the college football for a playoff, and it opens up the format a lot. And that would have Bama fall down to earth probably because you lose a bit on recruiting. I don't know if they'll be able to sustain that. And not only that, you got to think, what if somebody comes in, purges the staff and everything, and wants to bring their own guys in on the staff and in terms of some of the players, and then Bama kind of drops more down to like the high-level teams, and the high-level teams take a step up, and including Notre Dame. What happens then? What happens if Notre Dame reaches a 1 seed at one point, goes undefeated on a loaded schedule, and says, hey, we're going to be a 5 seed in the college football playoff? You think, why? What? I get it about that 13th game, and that's like their conference championship game, but it's not. You're facing a 12 seed, who you're probably who, depending on who it is, you can knock out of the water like nothing. Like, what if you get a Coastal Carolina or a BYU and you knock them out of the water? And you blow them out like Bama does to every other team right now. What? That makes no sense. Like, you deserve that 1 spot, and that could be any other team. I'm just using Notre Dame. Well, I mean, if it's Notre Dame, I'm using as a specific example, but I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna work. And then or I don't know how that's going to affect in the future. Not only that, 6 conference champions get latched in. I'm assuming it's not the Power 5 are guaranteed, and along with another conference. From what I'm hearing, it's not. So I'm assuming it's the top 6 conference champions. And I think it was the Big 12 commissioner, Bowlesy, said, why don't we make it so Power 5 are guaranteed? Dude, they're probably going to make it in anyways. Even if they don't, what are you afraid of? Worst conference champions getting stomped? Like, dude, just... I don't know. That part annoys me a little bit. But it is what it is. If the Board of Managers does greenlight this proposal, then the commissioners will continue to work on details throughout the summer before reporting back in September. Which means they basically just figure out a lot of where this is going and a lot of what goes into this. And they'll probably also figure out what bowl games are gonna potentially be the ones in the round of 8. This is what I'm calling it for now. If the nope. The 2-day meetings in Chicago were an important step in expanding the field beyond its current format. And other stuff that kind of says, yeah, don't put your eggs all in one basket or don't put your eggs all in a basket and then they don't hatch, basically, before they hatch. According to Big 12 Commissioner Bowlesby, he said, quote, "This is an enormous undertaking with dozens and dozens of moving parts, and it's not going to be a rapid process. It's going to be at least this fall before we have the necessary conversations and possess the necessary info to make an informed decision." Well, I can't wait to hear that reasoning, because it's going to be interesting. The proposal was written by Big 12 Commissioner Bowlesby, Notre Dame AD Jack Swarbrick, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, and Mountain West Commissioner Craig Thompson. And Swarbrick was not at the Friday meeting, but he was at the Thursday meeting because he felt ill, according to CFP Exclusive Director Bill Hancock. That kind of sucks that he wasn't there for that day, but it is what it is. The proposal did not include any guarantees for conference champions. Instead, it calls for the bracket to include the 6 highest-ranked conference champions plus 6 highest-ranked teams. See, I figured that's how it worked. I had already kind of heard that, but that 100% confirms it. And those 6 highest-ranked teams remaining are determined by the CFP selection committee. You know Notre Dame, if they continue like they have, and if something happens this year and they have a fall, I think that'll only be because they just lost, 3 receivers to the transfer portal. Book's gone. They just lost 2 more receivers. I think they lost... Well, they did lose Owusu Koromoa. They lost Crawford, their safety corner hybrid. They lost Nick McLeod. And you lost a piece or 2 on the D-line. So you've got to kind of reestablish a little bit. But anyways, the good news is that everyone who's on the conference committee supports expansion, which was said by Pac-12 Commissioner George Klavkov. I guarantee that's Russian, and I kind of butchered that. He begins this role July 1st and attended the meetings along with the current commissioner, Larry Scott. Interesting. That's very interesting, that he's not commissioner yet, but he still attends. That's good. That's a good thing. After the meet, Scott released a statement saying Pac-12 supported CFP expansion, but he also showed some details yet to be settled, and he added that all Power 5 conference champions should be guaranteed a playoff berth. You see, that's where I get annoyed. It wasn't Bowlesby that said it. I thought it was. You should be the better teams and make it. You're called the Power 5 for a reason. If you don't, well, too bad. Come back next year with a vengeance. We don't get a first round bye. Stop complaining. You don't hear us complain. Well, I don't like that we don't have a first round bye, and some people are complaining from Notre Dame's side. But I think we can all kind of see where Swarbrick was probably coming from when I think he was the one that probably brought that up and added that. So I can see the reasoning why, and I can say, I don't like it, but I'm fine with it. And I think a lot of other fans have probably thought that too. But it can be a vocal minority sometimes. In a statement later Friday, Sunbelt Commish Keith Gill said his conference doesn't believe that should be the case. Thankfully, but it is the Sunbelt. You really think the Sunbelt's getting a team in there? The Sunbelt Conference supports the CFP expansion, including the working group's recommendations to have the 6th highest ranked conference champions in the field. Gill said, the playoff spot should be earned and not given under the proposed system. If you are a deserving team, you should have no concerns of being left out of the playoff. Thank you. That's what I've been saying. That's what I've been saying. Is if you're good enough, you're good enough. If you're not, you're not. That's how it works. The college or the Power 5 sometimes I feel like is just too, like, with this expanding, I think some of them are slightly scared of that. Is one of them makes it in and potentially does somewhat good. Because there could be a team like that. Because there could be an outside Power 5 team that just comes in and takes like 2 teams out in the round of 16 and 8 or 12 and 8. That could happen. You never know. But it all depends on where they come in. The general sense from within the room Friday was the 10 FBS commissioners supported the foundation of the proposal, but needed more time to gather feedback from university presidents, ADs, coaches, and student athletes within their conferences. That I get. That's 100% understandable. I mean, that'll probably still be the case going into September, because you're not going to get everyone's opinion. I just don't think you're going to be able to in that short amount of time. It's possible, but with so many student athletes out there, but you never know. Klavkov said, we're going to spend the next couple months going back to the constitutes, getting them all on board with the same format. There's also timing issues related to all the contracts. The playoff is entering its 8th season of the 12-year contract and runs through the 2025 season, and Hancock reiterated the playoff will not be changed this season or next, though it could happen as early as 2023. Hancock said the commissioners didn't talk a lot this week about the timing of the implementation. That doesn't surprise me. They're more you got to think they're going to be more focused on getting the foundation first before they really talk about timing. Timing's something you don't talk about till you're all done, because then you're going to know how long you're going to need to roll this out, how long it's going to take you to really get bowls in with hosting the round of 8, and what it's going to take to change over and stuff like that. But we'll have to see. According to the proposal, first-round games will take place on campus sometime during the 2-week period after the conference championship games. The quarterfinals will be played January 1st or 2nd whenever New Year's Day falls on a Sunday and on the adjacent day. The work group did not include which bowls might be a part of the CFP in the future, but it did recommend that if traditional bowls host games, teams would be assigned to those bowls for the quarterfinals, with the priority going to the higher-seeded team. We don't know who the 6 bowls might be if the format goes through, Hancock said. That will be determined later. In my mind, the 6 bowls that will be a part of this will be delighted to be a part of it. And that's the end of the article. And that's going to be what I end off on, is the bowls. If they're reworking with all new bowls, I think you got to roll with the 3 you've been rolling with, I think, or at least 1 or 2 of them that you've been rolling with for the CFP. But I think it'd also be nice to work with bowls, but I think if there's a bowl that you usually, well, not usually, but if there's like a bowl that a team usually, well, no, let me throw that out the window, but it's all going to depend on who wants to do it, and I think a lot of bowls are going to want to do it, but it's all going to come down to who they pick, and I think that's something for another time. I don't think they need to discuss that right now until they have everything figured out, until they can lay it out in front of the sponsors and say, hey, this is how it's going to work. Do you want to be one of these bowls? Do you want to put your name in front of it? Blah, blah, blah. But I think it's all going to depend on who they want to be the first 2 or 3 rounds. That's going to be interesting. I want to know that. But anyways, this has been myself. This is really the first Notre Dame video I've had on my channel, but it's more of a conference football playoff one, though. But anyways, I got the Common Flock recorded. Fighter from 3 should be recorded tomorrow morning. Both will be out tomorrow. I am Jordy Fighter. I will see you tomorrow with the podcast.